host FAIZA with a prayer. May Allah keep you all safe, healthy, and blessed, and may Allah fill this world with peace and justice and truth and hasten the appearance of Imam of our time, inshallah. Ameen. As we all know, it's been 5 days since, nearly 5 days since exchange of fires between Israel and Iran is going on, and situation is intensified. And now it looks like that Trump is also thinking about joining the war, because the wording he is using in his tweet from I to we, for example, is stating certain facts. So he is also looking at the situation in a very a deeper manner, as he has left the G7 meeting in quickly and had been in Washington for further discussion on the matter between Israel and Iran, and he's been tweeting on and off about different things, that Tehran should be evacuated and they will suffer and all that, and they know where is Sayyid Ayatollah Khamenei is, but they will not kill him. It's not the plan, and Iran has to do to sign the deal, and the time for deal is over, and things like that. There are so many on and off for and against comments he is passing in his tweets. So what's going on in that regard? Are we going to see an escalation, or is going to de-escalate, situation is going to de-escalate? So what's going on in that regard? We will discuss that in further detail. We do have a us Sayyid Shabir Rizvi, and hopefully Sayyid Mohsin Abbas will also join us. He is with us as well. Thank you so much, Sayyid Mohsin Abbas and Shabir Rizvi. I'm really honored to have you both on the show. Thank you so much. First of all, Mohsin Bhai, if you could share some thoughts on the 5 days analysis, like what's going on briefly, because some obviously everyone is watching news very carefully and everyone is concerned about the situation, and especially Ayatollah Khamenei is in news on and off as well, because when Trump says something he is not going to do something, then I personally feel, I mean, that it is something opposite to it. So we can't trust his words in any way, as he also mentioned that they are going to have negotiation on Sunday, and official Iranian official even said on the TV that we are happy to do that, and there is no war going to happen, as it is some kind of understanding between Iran and a Trump administration, but they suddenly attacked Iran and violated international law. So how do you see this whole situation?
Well, I think what we're seeing is the reshaping of West Asia, perhaps the reshaping of the world. That's what we're actually in the middle of here. The broader picture is that this is not just about the Islamic Republic of Iran, and it's not just about Palestine. It's not just about Israel. The US has a lot of reasons why it should go to war with Iran, according to the psychology of Donald Trump and the Zionist money mafia, the money lenders that are behind him. And I can name a couple, 2 or 3 before we go into others, but certainly by attacking Iran, one of the things that they hope to achieve is regime. So regime change, according to them, the idea of regime is the word they use with Iran, whereas Iran is a religious democracy and is an established people's government. But of course, their idea of regime change is all about how they can get their hands on Iranian oil, Iranian gas, how they can get Iran back under the mantle of US, Zio-Western transnational corporate hegemony and control. So those are the obvious objectives of attacking Iran, and the benefits would be tremendous, because they would get all that oil, all that gas, just like they used to under the Shah, and just as they get it from the Arabs, the rest of the Gulf Arabs. So there's huge wealth to be had. The other reason is, of course, they want to break the China on the superficial level. They want to break this move of China into building the Belt and Road Initiative. There's the North-South corridor, which is Iran is absolutely crucial in terms of taking trade from its ports up to Russia. directly through this north-south corridor. Another thing which actually would take away from American interests in the region, and it would also mean that Iran could trade through channels that weren't controlled by American puppet regimes. It also links India up through that corridor as well. So some big moves for China and India coming to Charbahar port, for instance, and onward upwards. So trade and economy is also something that the Americans would want to checkmate the Chinese in. They also want to break up this growing alliance of Russia, China, and Iran as the Eurasian axis. These are the three main players of the BRICS and the Eurasian axis, and perhaps the Shanghai Corporation as well. You could throw in that group as well. The emergence of all these new institutions, this multipolar world, as they call it, is also directly a threat to the Americans. So they would want to break that up, and taking Iran out would be a major feather in their cap. And they're already saying it in public. Trump has said, I don't like the Russians and the Chinese being together. I want to break them up, and I think I can do it. And of course, part of his sonnets that he's singing to Putin are all about that, about breaking the Eurasian axis and saying that he'll stop the Ukraine war, while at the same time they've got NATO and the Europeans saying we're going to go to war. So that's just a handful of things. And of course, they don't want to get rid of Israel. They have to protect Israel, their battleship, their main source of conflict and fitna within West Asia, their agent provocateur, their main base for causing all the trouble. They need to also protect that battleship, which is, again, part of Iran's challenge to that, is also part of that. They need to stop Iran's technological advance. That's one of the biggest fears they have of Iran, is the scientific, aerospace, technological, robotic engineering, AI, in the field of medicine. That progress is massively problematic for them, because it means that Iran can become totally independent and could also start serving other regional nations or other friendly nations around the world as well with its technology and knowledge economy. That's another thing they want to totally destroy and grind down to a halt. The final one that comes to mind straight, I guess, is the fact that they also need to, reimpose themselves as the leader of the Arabs, because the Arabs will get funny ideas if they see Iran is able to challenge America and take out territories in that region. If they see that the Chinese, Russian, and Iranian axis, it can provide them economics and sorts of other alternative sources of survival, then it could well be that the likes of the Saudi Arabians, who've been puppets, the Kuwaitis, the Qataris, the Jordanians, the Egyptians, all of them, the Moroccans, all of these puppet regimes which have been under American imperialist sort of thumb for the last 70 years plus, would have funny ideas about maybe shifting sides. Destroying Iran, stopping Iran, would also put the fear back amongst those Arabs. And if they've got any ideas of moving away from the dollar, or if they want to move away from American hegemony, they'll stop thinking about that. These are some of the goodies that the Americans will be salivating about in terms of why they should go to war with Iran. That's just the beginning. Well, they've had a serious war and a notice, and they knew they would have it. And this is what doesn't make sense about what America is doing, because they know Iran has hundreds of thousands of ballistic missiles and drones and all the other hardware and weaponry. For over 20, 30 years, Iran has been preparing for this moment. They've known that they're going to do this, and they're ready, so they can sustain a long war. And the Americans, to go into a war with Iran will mean immediately that the Americans get involved. The Iranians will look to destroy every US base, which means it'll involve all those Arab countries that have got bases around Iran. They will all be destroyed within a matter of hours. The second thing that would happen is that the warships in the region, if they're hanging around, of the US Navy, they will also be hit and battered. The Hormuz Strait will be completely sealed off by the Iranians, and that will close around about 20-25% of the world's energy supplies and other goods, which will send the world economy into a spiral downwards and create huge, great problems around the world. And I'm adding that this isn't in the interests of America. Whilst I listed all the things that were in their interest, this one thing would be enough to destroy all of the other benefits that America might get from attacking Iran. So why do it? Well, because I honestly think that in the background, it could well be that the global economy needs to be brought down by the money mafias who are running out of they're running out of the hangman's cord, like hyper capitalism. And Shabir is a much better expert than I am on the economy, and I'm sure he'll go into this. But it would benefit them hugely if they destroyed the economies of the world and started again. You know, destroying the economies means that actually you get back into this new game, which after the first seconds of World War, again, money mafias created those wars, in my opinion. They engineered them to transfer the power from Europe into America. And now I think that they're doing this same game again, where they're trying to bring everybody down a peg or two. So that we're more worried about all these things than worrying about that 1% who are ripping off the rest of the world, and increasingly the awareness around the world of the fact that those money lenders are the ones who are causing all the trouble would give them a lot of motivation to make us all fight, worry, and just be thankful that we've even got the basics. And once they've destroyed everything, they could come in and say, oh, well, we've got a new system for you, and maybe China's going to lead it, or whoever they choose, whoever they invest in, will then go ahead and lead the new world order. These are just some options that come to my mind.
Thank you, Mohsin Bhai. Shabir Bhai, what are your thoughts? What Mohsin Bhai has suggested in his, he stated some facts regarding the reasons why they might be going into war and how he viewed the situation. What is your take on the whole situation? Because you must be analyzing the whole situation as well. And the way Trump is sharing his tweets on and off, and his language and the arrogance and all that, and he's like view of Iranian airspace, as they are in control. I mean, it's sort of reflecting that they are in control and stuff like that. So how do you see his arrogance and the way he cheated the word in the, I would say that, maybe I'm wrong, I'm not sure, but he said there is no war going to happen, and suddenly Israel comes and he attacks Iran, and it is entirely against international law during the negotiations and all that. And in along with that, if we look at the situation within Gaza as well, they are also killing innocent people over there, where they are going to get food, wherever they say like come and get some aid sites are not safe for the people of Gaza as well. So what do you think under this whole situation, what they are doing in Gaza as well? So how do you view this situation in that context?
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you very much for the invitation. Look, what is very clear, and Brother Mohsin has very eloquently listed all the benefits that would come out of sort of eliminating the Islamic Republic of Iran from the scene, and on the other side, what would be the sort of if you like, the difficulties that the world would face with Iran closing the artery to the world through the Strait of Hormuz, if you like. What you've got to really look at it is in a context, sister, is, as you mentioned, Gaza, and I'll come to it in a minute, is that the world is watching Israel fight because it was really an unprovoked attack. Everyone knows that it was unprovoked, no matter whatever nonsense that the legacy media and the politicians are telling us, that Israel has a right to defend itself. Iran has a right to defend itself, and that's what is doing admirably. So the world is watching Israel fight. It's unbelievable that Israel truly believes life will be beautiful for them, and we can see how beautiful it is for the last 5 days, only to be transferred into a life of suffering after fighting so dishonorably. To believe that one's own spirit is acting, how do you say, stupidly, and that bombing children is justified, is to have given up the human being. So, really, for the last 20 odd months, Israel has very clearly shown that it is against humanity by the killings that is taking place, and the burning of children and mothers. Iran is the only country, and I say that without a shadow of doubt, that Iran is the only country currently defending the honor and the spirit of humanity. People talk about USA being the leader of the free world and all that kind of nonsense that goes with it. So, it's honoring the spirit of humanity. Iran stands for the weak, the oppressed, the disenfranchised, the downtrodden, to use Frantz Fanon's famous word, the wretched of the earth. So in reality, Islamic Republic of Iran is there really defending the honor of humanity. As I said, because this fight isn't just against Iran, it is against our humanity. Uh, and I hope everyone is watching what's happening right now. What you've also got to understand that Iran is not just a nation and not even a civilization. It's more than a civilization. It's really a paradigm. This is at a stage of a paradigm shift that is taking place for the world to really understand where Iran stands. And look, what the Zionist entity and the US, and of course, our country and the European Union, all the sort of collective West, do not want the oppressed people to have armaments. They do not want them to have firepower. They do not want them to have missiles and anything to defend themselves. Because if they are unable to do that, then they can, go on a killing spree, which they have done, as we have seen in Gaza for the last, as I said, 20 odd months, in Lebanon, and of course, bombing Yemen, and of course, creating chaos in Syria. So the reality is what Iran has shown is that, of course, as Muslims, as followers of the Ahlul Bayt, we believe that we have to supplicate to the God Almighty for help. But at the end of the day, we also must take action. And that's what Iran has done. It has built its armament over the last, because I think what one got to look at it in context is that when the imposed war of 8 years took place against the Islamic Republic of Iran in its sort of initial stages, Saddam was supported by the whole of the West, the whole of the Arab nations, and of course, even the Soviet Union at that time was supporting Saddam. Britain, France, Germany were supplying chemical weapons. And, I remember David Owen, who used to be our foreign secretary at that time under the Labour government. And I laughed because he came on BBC soon after the revolution. He said that this revolution is not going to last 2 weeks. So obviously, we know how intelligent he was in predicting what's likely to happen. And then, when the war was going on, when Jack Straw became the foreign secretary in Blair's government, and they were talking about, Saddam's situation and chemical weapons and so on. And one of the cartoons in The Guardian at that time was asking Jack Straw, how do you know the Saddam was supplied chemical weapons because the WMD's issue was going on? And he said, I've got an invoice in the cartoon saying that, we supplied it, therefore I have the invoice for that. So we can see that during that 8-year war, Iran was alone. Because one of the things that is being portrayed in the legacy media by the analysts and some of the commentators is that Iran is on its own at this moment. Evidently, it appears to be, but it is not on its own as it was in the 8-year war between 81 and 89. So, and of course, as Brother Mohsin has quite rightly pointed out, the axis that has taken place in Eurasia between China, Iran, and Russia is quite profound at this moment, because obviously they're not entering directly because they're not post juvenile delinquents like Trump and his regime, that they want to go into this without wisdom, without thought. And of course, even Tulsi Gabbard, who is the security head, advised the administration only 3 months ago that Iran does not possess nuclear weapons and is not really on a road to produce nuclear weapons. And he ignored all that because, of course, the Zionist lobby is so strong in the US and also on this side of the Atlantic, that most of the European nations are reluctant to go against the Zionist state because they've all been funded in their political campaigns and sort of go for freebie trips to Tel Aviv and Eilat and wherever they wanted to go. So they have a vested interest to protect the Zionist entity, but Iran is not only not on its own, but also is militarily powerful. That's why Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel are trying to now drag the US into this fight because they really can't cope with what has gone on for the last 5 days. We can see that the whole of the Zionist entity, they used to talk about, there's a thing called the Daher doctrine, meaning that flatten the whole of Beirut. And they said that we'll apply that to Gaza, which they did. It appears that the Zionist entity is experiencing what Daher doctrine means, because we can see it's just clear, even though there is a complete blackout on media reporting from the Zionist entity because there's censorship, you're not allowed to report, even their own journalists are not allowed to go. So we don't know exactly what the death toll is, what really is happening. But what we can see from the satellite pictures is that the Zionist entity is experiencing some difficult times. And that's why I think they're sort of, the usual sort of thing of the Zionist entity is to cry victim. So they're saying that, our civilians, Benjamin Netanyahu says, oh, Iran is killing civilians. But my dear, they've been killing civilians like there was no tomorrow since 1948 when the Zionist entity came into existence. So all these factors, I think, make it pertinent that the Islamic Republic of Iran stands its ground, and I think is becoming abundantly clear that the public are with them. One thing that I think your viewers and others must also have noted, that the Zionist entity's air force hasn't been that successful. 80% of the destruction that has taken place in Iran is by Mossad agents who were planted there over the last many years as cells. And they actually started operating missiles internally from Iran, the drones from Iran. So really 80% of the destruction has been due to them, not due to Israel's supremacy over the skies, as they've been trying to make us believe that the Air Force is very powerful and is able to, bomb as far as Mashhad, if you like. But the reality is that the Zionist entity is losing, and when they're losing, that's why they want to drag USA into this particular crime of attacking a nation and killing the civilians there. So I think the days are numbered. I mean, people have been saying, people more knowledgeable than myself on security matters have very clearly pointed out that the days of the Zionist entity are numbered. But of course, we have another thing that the Zionist entity also wants to apply, is what is called the Samson Option. What that means is that if I'm going to die, I'm going to kill everyone with me. So potentially, like some sort of security analysts have commented that the nuclear weapons that the Zionist entity possesses are not really to target Iran, but they're to target Paris, London, Rome, Madrid, you name it, because they could very easily do that, saying that too, as I said, due to the Samson option that they have to destroy the whole of the world and mankind if they are going to be not be able to operate in West Asia any longer.
True. Muslim, if you would like to add something, what Brother Shabir has mentioned is up to your choice. I mean, just in case sometimes there are important points which are supposed to be more emphasized. Along with that, if we look at the situation like impunity for Israel, in the sense that it is the one breaking the rules of law, ethics, and everything, you can say, you name it. And is the one who attacked Beirut, who is, I mean, attacking in, you can say it, in Lebanon, in, you can say, Yemen, in Iran, in Damascus and Gaza and everywhere. And it is the one who is breaking the law. It is the one going against law. And the second thing is why it has the impunity, and there are more chances that they have this nuclear weapon, and no one is checking them and asking them any question about that, and making them question in the sense that the way they come to Iran and they ask if you have this and we are going to attack it, and we do have like whatsoever fear of attack from them or whatsoever. And the second thing is they didn't achieve any goals of war in Gaza so far. I mean, if we look at from war perspective, they did ruin the whole Gaza, is fine. But if we technically look at the goals they wanted to achieve, they couldn't achieve even a single goal. In the same way, they think that they are going to like take the nuclear, finish the nuclear program, and they are going to change regime. So how do you see these goals, achievement of these goals? So do you think they will be able to do that? Even though I personally think they even know that they can't achieve these goals, but still they settle these goals. And then come America is there, and America, under what law on earth America has this power to uh, go anywhere and start preemptive war and ruin any country, and start acting like a boss on this world? But, like, if you say anything against them, you will be killed, or you will be I mean, you can say removed from the position you are in, for instance, wherever you are, whatever you are. And you're, for example, and the kind of fear of these things as well. So how do you see these aspects? Under what law? Because it looks like that America survives on the war. Like, they need a war to stay in news or whatsoever, or to control. And as you mentioned already, there are so many goals to achieve. Like, they want, it's a power gain sort of competition as well. So how do you see these things? Under what law, and how is going to change now? Because world is changing at the same time, people opinion is globally changing, and the way they were used to look at, for example, Iran and its regime and Sayyid Ali Khamenei is also changing. So how do you see these three aspects, for example?
Okay, so to unpack that, I think the first thing is that American exceptionalism and Israeli exceptionalism is rooted in the fact that the Anglo-Zionist Empire won the Second World War, an engineered war in which they set Germany up basically to reshuffle the world's kind of assets and the organization. And of course, America was chosen as the base for the money mafia. They literally took out the majority of the wealth of Europe, put them all, I mean, made them so indebted that they had to basically crumble with all their empires and their colonies, and the Americans took over. Now, the thing is, in that situation, you've also then got to look at the origins of America over the last 100 and now 20, 30 years, maybe 140, 50 years. There has been a process of Jewish Zionist mafia, moneylender mafias, including the Rothschilds, including the likes of J.P. Morgan, who were also collaborating with these guys. When they were making the American railways, there was an entire build-up of the American infrastructure prior to raising America as the primary policeman for moneylender mafia. So given that America is really also sold off itself to the corporations, you know, the Carnegies and all these Rockefellers and whatnot, basically this money mafia took charge of America, and the debt of 30 to 40 trillion dollars, which is just like a blind debt, is owed to them. They're the ones who actually print money for free and then make America do whatever they need to do. So given that America isn't really either democratic or free, given that an oligarchy rules that nation, first of all, you have to understand whose interests are being served. And if Donald Trump, who is part of the minor echelon of that oligarchy, he's just another front man like Bill Gates might be, like Warren Buffett might be, I don't know, Bezos, or any one of the other guys, Zuckerberg on Facebook, or Elon Musk. These are all the front men who are chosen to do the rollout of policies and to oversee certain aspects of the empire. But the empire lives on whether America dies. The empire will shift its base. That's what it's thinking. And I think my gut instinct is that if you look at Larry Fink, for instance, who's the head of BlackRock, the biggest asset management agency in the world, where's BlackRock investing most heavily? Apparently 70% of their investment is in China. And so likewise, if you went through all the others, State Street and Vanguard and all the other front institutions for money mafia, you will find that they're quite happy with China. And I think about China, and China's never invaded anybody this side of their own territories out there in the Oriental East end of things. But the Chinese are quite a good option for money. If I was a money mafia, money lender, I'd quite like the Chinese model, because you've got a top-down government, which is communist and totalitarian in essence. You've got a people who were even willing to have one child per family for a very long time. You've got people who are very intelligent, but will deliver hard work and work long hours and are prepared to buy into the incentives, the apple that's dangled before them of materialism. They were formerly a peasant agricultural society, so coming into smart cities and having this kind of work is quite fun for them. They're being given all the glitz and glamour. Not only that, they are a completely surveillance capitalism committed society. Facial recognition, digital IDs, all of the other apparatus which the modern money mafia fraternity want to implement in the West and are gradually doing, central digital currencies, stuff like this. The Chinese are very, very compliant in going ahead with this, and they're also not against sort of capitalism. The only difference being that at the moment it seems that the immortals, who basically run China, the top guns there, don't like private capitalists. And the guy who ran Alibaba, for instance, I think was put in his place, and the corporates, the Chinese corporates, are kept under control. But I'm interested to see whether that remains the case, given that foreign investment from these very mega financially superpower agencies come to start bribing them and investing them. My worry is that I think that they're taking the wind out of the American sail and gradually putting a lot of their eggs in the Chinese basket anyway. And actually, so America's divisions, its kind of internal fragmentation, the Marja movement, the sense that there's some sort of tension between people there, the kind of things around abortion, the issues around, all sorts of gun laws and whatnot. There are also issues that are there which are beginning, immigration, of course. These issues are all riling people up. The racism issue is still very much there. So there are ways of undermining America internally, which I think is happening. That's also going on simultaneously. And at the same time, you then install someone like Donald Trump, who says he's not part of that oligarchy, but actually he's totally doing everything that they want him to. So he's fooling those Americans who are being used, in the Rust Belt or the Bible bashers down in the South. He's pretending to be their champion, but actually he's sinking them with talk of tariffs and talk of all these other kinds of really wild economic suggestions, and the chaos and the sense of insecurity and the fear that he's creating. Which way is it going to go next? Now, through a period of this, say the Americans are put through this for a fair while, they'll be so insecure, so fearful, so demoralized, that when some normal hyper-capitalist guy comes in and then offers them something a little bit more stable, they'll snatch at it and take it very, very quickly. So it could well be that Trump is basically deliberately sent in by the oligarchs to make everybody feel a little bit insecure internally in America, and certainly make them feel insecure internationally, because nobody's safe. Canada wasn't safe, Panama, Greenland. And practically, of course, now Iran. He's still this kind of. They've cultivated him as this wild card that could do anything at any time, and we're given this kind of narrative. And indeed, he could, because America's economy does affect the rest of the world. So I think about the political economy as the driver of most of the military or other political policies. And in that regard, America is doing everything that would probably benefit the money lenders and everything that wouldn't benefit Americans. Now, in his strategy towards West Asia, well, whoever has controlled West and Central Asia traditionally, throughout history, whoever controls that region is really the world power. Take the Persian Empire, take the Greeks, take the Mongolian, the Mongol Empire, whatever people have ruled, it's that central area which actually dictates where the world really goes. When the Muslims had power there, they were the number one power in the world, undoubtedly. So now America virtually controls that West Asia and that Central Asian region, and it is the power. But if it loses that, it rightfully sees itself losing its pole position, and it will do anything, it seems, to hold on to that, and that's what's been fed to the American hierarchy to buy them into it, I think, by the money mafias. But I just think that at the moment we've got a scenario where Iran, as Sharif rightly said, it represents an alternative dream. The dream that Ayatollah Khamenei has, I'm not saying that all Iranians have understood it. I'm not saying I've understood it all fully. But what I do remember is all you have to do is look at the dream of Hazrat Pak sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and look at the dream that was there in Medina. And look at the society that the Ahlul Bayt and the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, were building. They didn't allow them to build it in the full way because it got hijacked. But look at the trajectory in Medina of helping the poor, creating conservation areas, having justice and fairness, stopping malpractice of inequality and sort of harm and hurt, destroying tribalism, raising the status of women, freeing slaves, left, right, and center. Look at the trajectory that the Rasulullah and his holy family gave the Muslim Ummah. And then look where the Muslim Ummah ended up within 40 to 50 years. They were busy murdering, killing Imam Hussain. This is the Karbala coming up, and the Iran and the Iranian people are inspired by Karbala. They are the followers. They are the primary followers as a nation, as a state, with a majority of Ahlul Bayt lovers who are in that court. And it's not just that they want to have an Iranian ascendancy. You see, there's this tendency for nationalism, and everybody wants to frame national interests as the only issue. For Ayatollah Khamenei, I believe you need a poet, a mystic, an arif, a man of God, a man of deep moral, ethical, excellence, and a man who is inspired and follows the model of the Ahlul Bayt, follows the model of Rasulullah, and is a great example of that. Do you really think all he's interested in is Iranian power or Iranian ascendancy? Do you think a man who is so unworldly and who understands the real context of illusion and reality, and understands what Islam is, and understands the dream that the Prophet had, do you think he's leading the Iranians towards worldly power? Is that his purpose? Was that the purpose of the Prophet? It may have been the purpose of Umar ibn Khattab or Abu Bakr Sadiq or Umar or Muawiyah or Marwan, all the subsequent leaders of the Muslim empire, but that was not the Prophet. And Iran is not like those Safavid empires, it's not like those Ottoman empires. Iran today stands on the principles of Ayatollah Khomeini's understanding of civilizational prophetic virtues and ethics. And if killing babies, starving babies, and if annihilating whole cities destroying trees and committing ecocide and ignoring all of the world and its cries and basically ethnically cleansing, genociding individuals is the morality that America and Britain and the West is sponsoring and is supporting even this moment, then you know what? Any day of the week, I'll join Ayatollah Khamenei, and I would be very happy to be fighting shoulder to shoulder with them for that morality, for that civilization of family, of love, of compassion, of a vision of a society where people work together and live together in harmony, where you tolerate other people's religions and faiths, where you create education for people, and you create wholesome environments, and you have nature which is in harmony with humanity, rather than what we're getting from this Western Zionist regime is AI and transhumanism and infiltrating our brains with chips and now starting to try and control us in all sorts of ways. I could go on. There is a battle for the future of human beings which is being played out in real time right in front of us, and I'm afraid that the Islamic Republic of Iran is the only one that can be trusted to have anything like what I think is a wholesome vision for humanity in the future. All of the rest of them, bar none, in every state that I can see, have got no clear vision and are buying into the hyper-materialist, hyper-capitalist, wicked, oppressive systems, which will destroy our children's future.
True. Shabir bhai, Bhai has explained. When we look at the war between Israel and Iran so far in past 5 days, and even in past attacks in April and May, I guess they retaliated. So we look at the proportionality and the rules and regulations and the principles they followed, and if they have got any, for example, losses in that, like they have lost 9 scientists roughly, and chief of army staff, and there are so many general and all people who ever were martyred in recently. They told the world that this is something we have lost truly, and they don't fear that, and they don't hide that, and they don't manipulate it, like they don't twist these things, and they just explain it. And so how do you see this element of proportionality and the element of truth and justice and the principles they are following when they are retaliating, and if we America gets into the war, so how do you see this picture? Like how, because in past 40 years they have like fought a war between Iraq and Iran, and there are so many infiltration. I was speaking to Aga Sahib, and he was saying like Reverend Mosem mentioned like 1,000 ways in through which istimar, or you can say Western world or whoever are their enemy, who are infiltrated in their country, for example, but still they managed to create some kind of very beautiful culture, education. They worked on that, and they have created very strong system in which, like we have seen, like many generals and colonels martyred, and in the next moment they were ready for the war. So how do you see the picture of coming war? Are we in the world war 3 practically? And if Trump comes into the war, how would be the shape of this whole war? What would you like to share about it?
Yeah, let me firstly say that and repeat this very clearly for ourselves and the audience to understand, is that Israel started it, but Iran will finish it. Israel started it, but Iran will finish it. And it will finish it with calculation, dignity, and restraint and crushing force. Because what Brother Sayyid Mohsin was talking about, creating a dream, a prophetic dream. Because at the end of the day, whether the founder of the Islamic Revolution, Imam Khomeini, may Allah bless his soul, was first and foremost a religious scholar. And, we have religious scholars like Dalai Lama, who is sort of, dined and wined by the West because, he's sort of in bed with the Western powers. But Imam Khomeini did not do that. Therefore, he was regarded as a demon. The other thing is during the 8 year war, and this is where the constraints that apply to how an Islamic state conducts war itself, because at that time when chemical weapons were being applied at the Iranian forces and the Kurdish and Iraqi civilians themselves, people came over to Imam Khomeini, said, can we also make chemical weapons? And he clearly said, no, this is against humanity and we will not allow that. So Iran did not pursue the line of chemical weapons. Similarly, that's the reason why the whole issue is a phony issue of atomic weapons, because Iran and the Rebbe have quite clearly said that these weapons are against humanity and we will not sort of indulge in making it. But of course, there's debate going on, and it's not the sort of occasion today to talk about it. Whether that ruling will change or not, that's a different matter altogether. It's not the topic for today. But the reality is that Iran is not interested in having weapons which will not only annihilate humanity but actually like Sayyid Mohsin wonderfully said, ecocide, committing sort of crime which will destroy the whole environment, whereby for generations nothing can grow there. So Iran is not interested in that, so it conducts even war in a manner which is prescribed by Islam, and is when you talk about proportionality, that's what proportionality means, that you conduct war in a manner not because the United Nations says, or some international law says, or some humanitarian law says, because those can be discarded, but Islamic fundamentals and Islamic law is what the Rabba follows. Because at the end of the day, if Iran wants to be vicious, it can't do that very easily, and it is targeting, as we know, the Mossad headquarters. And here's a sort of interesting thing, in sort of Gaza and Lebanon, they talk about the resistance using human shields. But it's becoming very evident the Zionist entity uses their own civilian population as human shields, because all these
Sure.
rockets and sort of anti-missile batteries are located in narrow streets where there are civilians. So they are using human shields, because what happens, look, the reality is that human beings, when they are evil themselves, they think of others as evil. Okay, so the Zionist entity is an evil entity which was created by the current evil empire, well, created by the previous evil empire in 1948 with the support of the Balfour Declaration, but the baton was passed to the current evil empire running the show from Washington. And they have no morality, they have no ethics, they have no sort of fear of God in them at all. Because that's another factor that you've got to remember, is that we are all answerable at the end of the day to the Almighty. And these rulers, these evil rulers, do not have the concept of God in them. Therefore, they're just living on this planet to enjoy life as they see fit. That means, whether it's LGBT issues, whether it's transgender, just to enjoy life, that's all. To break all kinds of laws of the Creator is secondary to them. So when you come from that place, that mindset where godly law or heavenly law does not apply, therefore you can't imagine those individuals and those people in power applying any kind of heavenly rules when they're conducting war. And that we've seen very clearly in the last 21 months in Gaza, in Lebanon, where the majority of people who were killed were civilians, babies, the whole infrastructure was destroyed, everything. So when Iran fights, it fights within the parameters laid down by Islamic law and the way the Prophet used to conduct war, if you like. People might say that, but civilians are being killed in Israel at this moment also. What's your answer for that, Shabir? Well, the majority of the Israeli population are not civilians. They are, either serving members of the army or they are reserves. So they can't be classified as civilians in any shape or form that one would normally call civilians. And your question about sort of killing of nuclear physicists and the sort of the top brass of the military and the IRGC, because Iran has created what is called intellectual property. That means the level of knowledge, like Brother Sayyid Mohsin was saying, is many layered. If the top layer grows, that doesn't mean the second layer will not be able to do it, because they have been educated. So the nuclear physicists, the knowledge. You see, this is the biggest worry that the West has, is that no matter how many nuclear physicists you kill, there will be another whole cadre of nuclear physicists under them, who will be able to continue the research and the intellectual knowledge that they have created of how to work on nuclear power and so on. They will continue to do so. Similarly, militarily, if one general goes, that doesn't mean that the whole thing is going to collapse. And we can see, with the grace of Almighty, that they have been, as you quite rightly pointed out, they've been able to continue and send rockets for the last 5 days in a as intensive manner as it is practical for them to do so. And of course, even on that, Iran doesn't want to sort of do everything together on one night, because it's a war of attrition, it's a psychological war, it's a war of information, it's a war of disinformation, it's a war trying to silence, like we saw the attack on Sada and Sima, the Islamic Republic Broadcasting Corporation, to silence those people who are able to articulate the message of the Islamic Republic of Iran, to silence them. But Alhamdulillah, with the grace of God, although there are hypocrites within Iran who will be working with Mossad and others, but I'm sure we have another sort of organization in it called Besiege, as you know. So the ordinary people who work in different occupations, they will keep an eye on these people who are trying to harm the Islamic Republic of Iran. And in the last few days, it's the civilians who've actually caught some of these Mossad agents rather than the police and other security forces. So that is also being implemented quite rapidly. And I suspect we would say in the next few days that, as I said, Israel started this attack, but it will be Iran that will finish it.
True. Muslim Bhai, we are just ending the show. So if you would like to add any comments, especially what we are going to see, what should we prepare for, and how this war is going to look like, if precisely you can share some points on that.
Yeah, I think anything can happen in this situation where you're dealing with desperate agencies, the moneylender mafia, Donald Trump, Benjamin Netanyahu. They are desperate people, and they are also capable of extraordinary destruction as well, because they have no morality, nor do the people behind them. They've also taken the mask off of democracy, equality, and all those values. They're not bothered by that, because as you've seen, Israel has, in the front of the whole world, killed children. What can be more than that? Day after day, 100 children a day they've been murdering. So clearly they're not bothered about their public relations anymore, that the lies and the fake image they created with the Hasbara, and nor are the Americans bothered by that. Nor are they bothered by the international institutions. As Trump has shown, he doesn't care about treaties and about agreements. He is just all about, his money lenders and how he can serve them, not the American people, I might add. So the bottom line is that you're dealing with a completely barbaric, savage enemy. Don't be fooled by the shiny suits and the ties and the white smiles, the Colgate brushed teeth, the orange the orange spray that he puts on his face or whatever it is, or the tango look or his hair. Don't be bothered and worried by the image, because too many of us get fooled by the images we see and the images that are put out. Look at the content. And the content of this entire establishment is actually borne out in the image of Trump, and it is one of psychotic, barbaric savagery. And you take away the suit, you take away all the rest of it, what you've got is people who are willing to crush the bones of children, they're willing to organ traffic, they're willing to rape, they're willing to do paedophilia. Let me just give you one example. Whitney Webb, I think, was putting something out, and I'll conclude on this. She said that Epstein, a good friend of Donald Trump's, and a good friend of Bill Gates, and a good friend to all of these murderous barbarians, basically was in leagues with Israeli military intelligence. One, he was in leagues with the CIA. Two, he was in league by default to the money lender deep state. So there's a deep state behind the deep state. The CIA and the Mossad and the MI6 also answer to somebody else. They're not the ones who are running the show. There's another deep state that they answer to. And he was saying that there was the Bronfman family mobsters, Zionist mobsters, back in the early part of the 20th century, who were the pre-runner to the IDF, who financed the pre-runner to the IDF, the organization. And in the same way, what you've got to then understand is nothing has changed. Those mafia organizations, those mobsters, that CIA, that Mossad, since those 30s and the 40s, have now only grown bigger. It was actually called the OSS. The CIA was called the OSS back then, when all these guys were building this nexus. But now it's transferred into this huge international body, which is surveillance capitalist powered, which is AI powered, which is powered by nuclear weapons, powered by death and destruction machines and weaponry that the world has never witnessed before. And Iran is fighting that. That is the evil that it's fighting. And I think it's the obligation of every human being, every civilized human being, to recognize the right from the wrong. Imam Ali alayhi salam also said something most profound. They said, how do we recognize the people of truth? And he said, look at where the enemy's arrows are firing, and then you'll know the people of truth. Today, the arrows are all firing at Iran, the Islamic Republic of Iran. And if you look at where they're coming from, then you know the people of truth are there sitting in the Islamic Republic of Iran. And that's who we should support. And if any Muslim around the world, be they Sunni, be they Shia, be they Wahhabi, whatever they call themselves, first and foremost, they're the ones who should lend support to Iran. That I'm pointing to the Pakistan establishment, particularly, who have nuclear weapons at their disposal. They should join in brotherhood with Iran and tell any enemies to back off and support the Iranians. The Saudis should wake up from their puppetry, and they should also say, okay, we want a Middle East, a West Asia free of nuclear weapons, and Israel must get rid of its weapons, and then we can have no nuclear weapons in the area. That's one solution. The other way of panning out is to carry on with this war, and it'll be a slow bleed, and Israel will not last as long as Iran can. And Israel is already fragmenting. It's already got millions of people leaving on yachts now. They can't get out of Ben Gurion Airport, so they're going by yachts. So they're leaving in their millions. Their economy is collapsed. They're relying totally on American taxpayers to give them money so they can have their free medical aid and all their bomb shelters, and they can carry on killing innocent children, while the Americans starve at home and are out of pocket. I'll conclude there. It's up to the Americans to say to their own government, what the hell are you doing? Stop fighting wars which we don't want. And we brought you, Donald Trump, into office to stop the wars. Now you're the one who's actually opening up more wars. That's what ought to happen.
Thank you so much, Mohsin Bhai. Thank you so much, Shabir Bhai. I'm really grateful for your time and participation tonight. And to the viewers, I would say this is the time we all have to work together for peace and justice, for global peace and justice. And we should stand by truth and haq, and we should do whatever we can in that regard. Look after yourself and everyone around you. Keep praying for Sayyidina Khamenei and everyone who is fighting for haq. Allah Hafiz.